what it actually takes to build muscle. You see, most people think that growing muscle means you have to do more exercises, you have to train harder, or even change your program every 2 weeks because you haven't seen the gains in your first few weeks. But in reality, guys, all successful programs, all training programs, coaching programs, they all follow the same principles. If they're successful, that is. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you, what are these principles? No mumbo jumbo here, not selling you any supplements, not telling you anything you don't need to hear. The only thing I'm going to tell you today is exactly what needs to happen when you step into a gym or when you're back home in bed in order to optimize your actual gains. I'm making this video because I get on calls with people all the time, guys in particular, that say they've been training for 10 years, that I can't even, this sounds harsh, but it's a reality, right? Like, I can't even see they have ever been into a gym. There's a massive need for this. Now, quickly, why should you trust me? Well, I've been coaching people for the last 12 years from people all over the world. I help people burn body fat, or remove body fat, build muscle mass, optimize lifestyle, and make sure all of these gains and changes sticks with them for life. I've worked with over 500 people very closely on their nutrition and their lifestyle and their training. So I have seen firsthand when these principles are applied and the results come, or someone comes to me and they haven't worked according to these principles and they have trained for 10 years that they've never seen any results. This is very black and white, guys. And these clients are not like top athletes. These are everyday busy people, often parents, people who has limited time, that just wants to look and feel better. So let's jump straight into it with the 4 drivers of muscle growth. And number 1, mechanical tension. This is your main driver. Heavy load, controlled repetitions, no ego lifting, keeping your muscles under tension while applying progressive overload. Listen to this, guys. Your muscles will not grow unless they're forced to produce force they are not used to. Let that sink in for a bit. Your muscles will not grow unless they are forced to produce a force they are not used to. And that leads me into progressive overload. Progressive overload is adding weight or adding reps or adding sets or improving technique. Yes, there is a part number 4 there. Over time, when a guy walks into the gym and he goes from a deadlift on 135 and the next week he goes to 185 or 315, that's not progressive overload, that's ego lifting. Progressive overload is small, gradual increase in total volume through reps or sets, or increase weights gently, 3, 4, 5 weeks, followed by a deload week so that your central nervous system can recover, your muscles can recover, etc., reduce risk of injury. If your stimulus doesn't increase, your body will not adapt. If you keep lifting the same weights every single week, nothing will happen. That's why guys come and say, I've been lifting for 10 years. But they've been lifting the same weight for 10 years. And the body's like, I got this on lockdown. There's no need to produce any more muscle to cover this. The muscles were not forced to produce a force they haven't done before. There has been no stimulus to adapt to. So they're just cruising. Point number 3. Sufficient volume, not to be confused with junk volume. That's a term that's very popular or modern right now. But where is the fine line between what's sufficient and what's too much? I will say first and foremost here, it comes down to your recovery. This advice is given to you assuming that you're sleeping enough and taking care of yourself, right? Because you can only grow or adapt to a volume that your recovery can back up. So, sufficient volume. How many sets and reps, or how many hard sets do you have, right? Because speaking of that progressive overload, we need to push the envelope. We need to push the limit here. We need to make sure that within our sets, we go close to failure. We don't have to go to failure. You don't have to go to the point where you're doing a bench press and it drops down on your chest and you fight for your life to not get choked out. Or you're in a back squat and you fail. You have to drop the weight behind yourself. No. We don't need to go there. We just need to go to the point where you see a little wiggle in your last rep or you're really pressing as hard as you can, you might start making some funny faces. Yeah, close to failure. We want to complete typically in the range from 6 to 12 reps. Does it mean you can't build muscle from 1 to 6? No. But it means that for the majority of people out there, between 6 to 12 reps is the sweet spot where you can hit that stimulus, where the weight will be quite a bit lower than it would from 1 to 6, meaning that your risk of injury is also going to be much lower. Because I'm just going to say this, on average, the technique out there is SHIT. If you go to your normal Globo gym and you see how people lift in there, oh my God, I get a heartache every time I see it. It's terrible. So whatever we can do to make sure that people just they chase progressive overload with a little bit less weight. Well, let's bump the reps up a little bit. 6 to 12 reps, somewhere in that range. Of course, your pump is greater with higher reps, but that doesn't mean increased muscle building, unfortunately. It just makes you feel great, look great. But 6 to 12 reps, and you want to complete 8 to 12 sets per muscle group every single week. Guys, this is where everyone, they make the mistake when they're like, I'm doing a bro split. No. If you're only training 3 times every week, for example, you're going to have to do 3 full body sessions, or else you cannot hit your muscles with the correct or enough or sufficient amount of sets. If you're training 5 times per week, sure, do your bro split. Or you can do your push-pull legs. But more is not always better. If you've been training for a long time and your muscles don't show, chances are that you have been doing a lot of junk volume, but the quality and the intent with each set hasn't been there. You haven't gone close to failure. You haven't been pushing progressive overload, and you've just been overdoing it with the lack of recovery. Or you've just been lifting whatever and haven't even tracked your weights. That's also a big percentage of people out there. In this situation right here, guys, quality beats quantity 9 out of 10 times. And that leads me on to what most guys don't focus on, which is recovery. You cannot grow from what you cannot recover from. You see, your muscle will grow when there's enough calories, meaning that you're not in a fat loss. You're either at maintenance, or even better, 10% over maintenance. Your protein intake is high, or at least at 2 grams of protein per 1 kilo of body weight. Your sleep is consistent. You get at least 7 hours every single night throughout the week. Yeah, there might be a few nights that miss here and there, but you just need to know that you get suboptimal results from that. That's a fact. And your stress is controlled. If you're stressed Monday to Sunday, chronically elevated levels of cortisol, that directly impacts your ability to stick to a good diet, to recover well, to keep your nervous system in a good spot for recovery, and to actually get gains. You see, most people think they grow muscles inside the gym, which is not true. That's the stimulation. That's when you apply the methods, the principles I just explained now. You signal the body, hey, grow this muscle. And the body thinks, oh, that was heavier than what I can. I'm going to focus on building this muscle now. So next week, when he again hits the same muscle with this load, I'm there. But then the adaptation from that happens when you leave your gym, you eat your food, you keep stress low, and you go and sleep. Anything you do in that space of time that will reduce the quality of that is going to reduce the amount of gains that you get. Your lack of sleep, your alcohol intake, whatever people are doing, self-harming activities that are hurting their recovery. If you're tracking your HRV, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. A muscle pump doesn't mean growth. Sweating doesn't mean growth. Muscle soreness does not mean growth. And supplements does not mean growth. All of the principles I just mentioned have to be fulfilled if you want to go to the gym, leave, recover, and grow stronger, bigger, week after week. I have a video on where I take a deep dive on all of these things. But in this video, the main focus here is to get you leaving, understanding the 4 principles that you have to apply and hit if you want to grow muscle and look like you train as well. And for the majority of people watching this video, most of you guys most likely have to do a fat loss as well. Most people have more belly fat on the body than they want to. So you do a fat loss first, and then you start a lean gain, or depending on the rate that you want to build muscle on, you dictate your calories over your TDE. My recommendation to you, 10% calorie surplus. Stay there. Keep your fat gains minimal. Keep your muscle gains as optimal as possible without blowing up like a balloon and having to do a fat loss again in 3 months. That was the sidetrack. I just wanted to give you that piece of information. So there you have it. Mechanical tension, progressive overload, sufficient volume, and sufficient recovery. These are the 4 points that you have to learn inside out, and what that means in your life if you want to grow muscles as optimal as possible, as quick as possible, in the natural way. I hope that helps, guys. If you need help to do this the professional way, I have an online coaching service. I work with people from all over the world on optimizing their health, their lifestyle, their muscle building, and their long-term results. If that is in your interest, the link is in the bio. If not, the fact that you're watching this video in itself is more than enough for me. I want to thank you so much for making it to this point. Drop me a subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I put out videos every Monday and every Thursday covering everything from lifestyle, muscle building, fat loss, everything that I believe people need in order to optimize their results. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.